The coffee in my mug had long gone cold, but I kept my hands wrapped around the ceramic, feeling the last ghost of its warmth. From my usual table in the corner of the cafe, I had a perfect view of his house. Every Tuesday, like clockwork, he'd emerge at 7:15 p.m., dressed in his expensive, understated gym clothes, and get into his sleek German car. Dr. Alistair Finch. A pillar of the community. A respected cardiologist, a monster who slept soundly in my old bed, in the house he'd stolen from me. It wasn't just the house, of course. It was everything in it. The life we'd built, the future we'd planned, the woman I used to be. That woman, the trusting, bright-eyed Sarah, who believed in forever, had died 5 years ago, the day he served me with divorce papers. Not just any papers. They were accompanied by a forensic accounting report, a labyrinth of lies and hidden assets he'd meticulously constructed. He presented it all with a calm, surgical precision, painting me as a spendthrift, a burden, someone who didn't understand the pressures of his important career. I was left with nothing but a mountain of legal debt and a shattered heart. He got the house, the investments, the respect of our friends who, swayed by his quiet charisma, thought our split was a sad but amicable affair. He even got my dog, Buster, claiming my new, unstable freelance work schedule wouldn't provide a suitable home. He took Buster just to twist the knife, because he knew it would hurt the most. For the first year, I was a ghost. I lived in a shabby studio apartment, crying myself to sleep, fueled by a pain so profound it felt like a physical illness. The second year, the pain began to curdle. The tears dried up, replaced by a cold, hard stone of fury in my gut. That's when I started watching. That's when the plan began. Revenge, I learned, isn't a lightning strike. It's a leisure. It moves slowly, imperceptibly, carving canyons out of mountains with patient, relentless force. I couldn't fight him in court. He was too clever, too well-funded. I couldn't smear his name. He was Stiflon, and I was the scorned ex-wife, an easy stereotype to dismiss. No, I had to become a glacier. I had to erode the very foundation of his perfect life. I went back to school, studying what he'd used to destroy me: forensic accounting and cybersecurity. I lived on rice and beans, pouring every spare cent into my education. My friends thought I was finally moving on. They had no idea I was building a weapon, and every lesson, every line of code, was another part of its assembly. And I watched. I learned his routines, his passwords. He was surprisingly lazy, using variations of Buster's name and his birthday. I learned he had a new girlfriend, Clara, a sweet young thing from the hospital's fundraising department. My stomach clenched for her. I saw the subtle ways he already controlled her, the way he'd critique her outfit or finish her sentences. She was me, 10 years ago. The key, I knew, wasn't in the present. Alistair was too careful now. The key was in the past. He'd hidden his assets so well during our divorce. But to do that, he must have started long before. He must have left a digital trail, a ghost in the machine. I became a digital archaeologist, sifting through the ruins of our shared life, looking for a bone, a single shard of pottery that would lead me to the treasure. It took 3 years. 3 years of late nights, of dead ends, of moments where I almost gave up. But the image of him handing Buster's leash to his lawyer, the dog whining and looking back at me, always pulled me back from the brink. Then, I found it, buried in an old, forgotten cloud storage account, linked to his first ever email-in account. I only remembered, because it was the one we used to plan our honeymoon, was a folder. It wasn't labeled secret Swiss bank account or anything so dramatic. It was Kayed. Tax prep, 2010. Inside were scanned documents, invoices from a shell company in the Cayman Islands, a company that had received over $2 million in consulting fees from the hospital over the years, fees that had never appeared on our joint tax returns. He'd been skimming from his own employer for a decade. He'd hidden it from them and from me, stashing the money away while pleading poverty during our divorce. My hands shook so hard I could barely type. This wasn't just about our divorce anymore. This was fraud, grand larceny. This would not only bankrupt him, It would send him to prison and destroy the reputation he cherished more than anything. This was my moment. The glacier had reached the sea. I didn't send the files immediately. Revenge is a dish best served, not just cold, but perfectly plated. I waited for his greatest moment, the annual hospital gala, where he was to be honored with the Healer of the Year award. The local news was covering it. His mother was flying in. Clara would be on his arm, glowing with pride. The night of the gala, I didn't go to the cafe. I sat in my dark studio, my laptop glowing. I could picture it all. The ballroom dripping with chandeliers, the clinking of champagne glasses, Alistair at the podium, smoothing his tie, giving that humble, self-deprecating smile that hid a universe of arrogance. I had created 3 anonymous email addresses. One was for the hospital's board of directors. One was for the IRS. The last was for a very persistent investigative journalist at the city's biggest newspaper, a woman known for taking down corrupt public figures. At 8:47 p.m., just as I knew he would be stepping up to the podium to accept his award, I attached the files. I didn't write a long, ranting letter. I didn't need to. The documents spoke for themselves. The subject lines were simple, stark. To the board, evidence of embezzlement by Dr. Alistair Finch. To the IRS, tax evasion and hidden offshore assets, Dr. Alistair Finch. To the journalist, a story, Healer of the Year or Conman of the Decade. My finger hovered over the trackpad. For a second, the ghost of the woman I used to be whispered a warning. Then I saw Buster's confused, heartbroken eyes in my memory. I clicked send. The news broke 2 days later. It was a tidal wave. The hospital suspended him immediately. The journalist's article was a front-page masterpiece. By the end of the week, his assets were frozen, his medical license was under review, and federal agents were at his door. Claire left him. His friends vanished. The house, my house, was seized as part of the investigation. I went to see him once. Just once. It wasn't at his hearing or at the courthouse. It was at the dog park. I had Buster back, of course. The moment Alistair was arrested, his lawyer had called me, practically throwing the dog at me to avoid the hassle. I was throwing a ball for Buster when I saw Alistair sitting on a bench alone. He looked shrunk. His expensive coat was gone, replaced by a cheap, thin jacket. He was staring into nothing, the weight of his collapsed world bowing his shoulders. He didn't see me at first. Buster, loyal and forgetful, trotted over to him, tail wagging. Alistair looked down, a flicker of his old smile touching his lips as he scratched Buster's ears. Then he looked up and saw me. Our eyes met. In his, I saw the full, devastating comprehension. He knew. He knew it was me. He knew that the quiet, broken woman he'd cast aside had been watching, learning, and waiting in the shadows he'd created. He didn't say a word. Ehust started, the color draining from his face, the last of his pride crumbling to dust. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I simply met his gaze, let him see the calm, unyielding ice in my own, and gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod. Then I whistled for Buster. He came running back to me, to his real home. I clipped on his leash and walked away, without a single backward glance. They say revenge is a confession of pain, but they're wrong. True revenge is a quiet, patient art, and I am its master.